Alright, Victorum Gaming fans and Blood Red Skies fans, we are back. We're kicking off a new series here on how to collect the different factions, and we're going to start off with the Luftwaffe. So this is going to be a how-to Luftwaffe in Blood Red Skies. So we're going to have a couple different parts of the video, so we're going to basically break things down as far as the entire range of Luftwaffe products that Warlord has for the game. So we're going to kind of break it down into fighters, then sort of the heavy bomber, or sorry, heavy fighter slash bomber type of planes, and then some of the miscellaneous products that are out there as well. So things like the expansion pack and anti-air battery, for example. So starting off, we have the fighters, and really one of the best spots to start collecting Luftwaffe. Of course, if you have the two-player starter, which you kind of need for some of the tokens and templates and stuff like that, and the clouds. And obviously the rulebook is in there as well, but that gives you 6 of the 109s, the early war versions, and really the 109 is kind of the iconic plane and sort of all-around good plane for the Luftwaffe, and is really a good place to start. So there are a couple different versions, so you can separately buy basically what's called the 109E, which is an earlier version, and then the G, which is a little bit sort of mid getting into late war. With some slightly better stats and stuff like that. So, and it's a great way to, again, get started and sort of master the basics of the game as far as all the different rules and tactics, things like that, and is overall a fairly forgiving plane. And really, you know, if everyone is kind of starting off on the same playing field as far as like their given faction sort of typical or iconic plane, then especially for early mid-war, that's just, you know, a great all-around plane, and will do well in matchups against things like the Spitfire, for example, or the Yak-9s for the Russians, and with all things more or less being balanced. And that, again, gives everybody a chance to develop their skills, learn the plane, but also learn the game mechanics, and really go from there. So, and really, again, if you're starting off with a two-player starter, you're going to have that squad of 6. You might want to dip in and then later buy the G variant just to have a little bit of an updated version. And certainly picking up the ace at some point, Eric Hartman, is not a bad idea. Again, aces aren't necessarily a mandatory thing in the game, which is cool, unlike other games out there that maybe force you into buying practically everything just so that you have access to all the cards and stuff like that. But nonetheless, the aces are a good pickup. And the way I kind of would approach it is, you know, learn the basic plane first, and, you know, try out the different skill levels. You know, you get 2, 3, and 4 levels of the pilot skill there, and, you know, once you feel like you've got a good handle on the plane and the tactics that work for that plane, then it's not a bad idea to pick up that ace or aces that a plane might have available. And Germany is spoiled for aces all across the board, and there's still several that probably should come out at some point, which would be good on Warlord's part if they did that. So, again, and Hartman's a great one. He's not going to be super killy, but he does support his team fairly well. And, you know, with the 109, some of the things to really learn basically is really, like, if you can control every engagement, you're not necessarily going to outstat any other plane as far as, you know, your plane's not necessarily strictly better than the competition, but it does just enough in the right places. And again, you need to develop as a player as well alongside the plane. So it's definitely not necessarily sort of an I win kind of thing where as long as you're getting shots off, you're just automatically going to drop enemy planes. But it's good enough, and it's fairly forgiving at the same time. It's not one of the most maneuverable planes. So special rules, for example, a lot of the German planes are really dealing with like great climb and great dive. You don't really see too much of tight turn. That's more of a British and American, or even Russian and Japanese thing. So Germans are a little bit different in that regard there. So, but yeah, the 109 is just a great solid plane to start with. So learn how to control every engagement, sort of pick out the opportune targets, sort of start working in pairs, if not smaller. I wouldn't say squadron, just to not confuse the game terminology, but you know, using a buddy system just so you can take advantage of things like the wingman effect, but also just sort of weight of firepower against enemy planes too. But so yeah, learning how to pick out opportune targets, sort of chase and hunt people down. Again, maximizing the plane's special rules, which again is mainly going to be like climbing and diving tactics. So things like, again, great climb, great dive, and then just use that to establish dominance against the foes of the Luftwaffe there. So once you have the 109 mastered, then you can get out there and win that war on two fronts again, or try to at least. And again, starting off, that's a great spot to go to, whether you're starting off in two-player starter or just starting German sort of fresh, without having, without just getting into the game with a two-player starter, like maybe you're coming in from another faction or something like that. So 109 is a great spot to start. But again, with any of these kind of collecting things, like if you have your heart set on a specific plane or even like a certain ace or something like that, by all means collect what you want and what order you want. But this is just, again, just a general guide on some of the ways to approach it. And you have like early, mid, and late war and different theaters and things like that too. So, and moving on from there, Germany's sort of more mid to late war upgraded fighter, if you want to look at it this way, which can definitely hang with some of the other crazier things that other factions get late war, is going to be the 190, the FW-190, the Fuck of Oath 190. So there's two different versions that you can buy there. There's the regular one and then what's called the Dora, or D. But that one, the planes look very similar, but the Doras are slightly longer. Basically, they had like a stretched fuselage for like a bigger engine, which again comes with some bigger and better stats and stuff like that. Again, is it just strictly better than everything else out there at the same points level and time of the war and all that? No. Don't rely on like Hollywood or any other movies or video games or anything like that to distort your views on what some of these planes and stuff would do. But it's still a great all-around plane. Really, just one of the better, if not best, dogfighters in the game. And in many ways, just strictly better than the 109. But again, it's hard to compare things sort of in a vacuum. So if we just look at stats, sure, it looks better on paper, but again, it's all about how you're going to use it and learning the plane and some of its advantages and disadvantages. So in general, you're going to have a little bit more firepower, speed, and maneuverability is about the same. But that speed will be key with keeping up again with some of the other late war allied things there. So it's in some ways it's a little pricey too, but again, it's going to be a little bit difficult to master. But if you can master it, it's going to be well worth it. It's just overall a badass plane. So similar to the 109, you kind of want to like boom and zoom a little bit. So again, it's not going to be a super turn fighter like some of these more maneuverable things that the Allies typically will throw at you, but you've got your speed. If you need to get away, zoom away into the clouds, burn for advantage at the right times, things like that. So, and that all together will hopefully, again, let you establish that dominance like you need to with the Luftwaffe and be on top of things, be the aggressor. And with the 190s, you're spoiled for aces. Oh, just again, overall, Germany is spoiled for aces. So the regular 190s, you get Otto Kittel and Pips Priller. And then the Dora also comes with Hans Dortmund, and all three of them just are really awesome. Now, you're going to pay in the points department, certainly. None of these aces are cheap, but again, just adding those elite skills. And again, the way I sort of approach things is, picking up the plane first, learning how to master that over some games, and develop your own little take on what the plane can do, and then from there, taking a look at what the aces offer you and how those enhance not just their planes, but in some cases also being able to put the aces into different planes as well. But yeah, all three of those, Kittel, Priller, and Dortmund, are great pickups. So regardless of which flavor of 190 you have, so just definitely a nice package of aces to pick up there. And again, if you can really master the 190 and then you throw on the aces on there and really get good with their various tactics and things that they bring for you, it's going to be a tough day for opposing players. So but yeah, like I said, overall 190 is a little bit tough to master, but certainly well worth it if you can, and definitely a thorn in the enemy side there, so you can definitely use that to free up some Lebensraum if you can against those pesky allied planes. Moving on sort of in the sort of skill tree or level of plane, we get to the end really with the sort of one-on-one dogfighters kind of the German line here. and it's not really again a tech tree or anything like that, but just kind of putting it in this order. So last but not least, there is the ME-262. So if you really got the need for speed, of course this is basically the first jet fighter ever, so the granddaddy of all of those. So you're going to have just superlative speed compared to everybody else, but speed doesn't necessarily equal maneuverability, so you're definitely going to have to put yourself into the right positions to do that. And again, points wise, these are going to run you quite a penny here, so putting too many of these in a list, you'll definitely have a smaller group than your opposing player, but and it's typical for Germany. You're almost always outnumbered anyway. But yeah, certainly losing one of these, you'll definitely feel that. But again, you have your superior German engineering to really help you put yourself into advantageous positions here. And again, this is going to be another one that's going to be a little bit tough to master, but again, once you get kind of the hang of it, it's going to be pretty dang fun for you, and not so fun for the opposition. So, and firepower-wise, these are pretty good. At some point, hopefully, Warlord will also maybe release like all the variants and stuff that kind of existed with it. But basically, you've got your cannons basically to just dispatch some extreme prejudice and delete anything really that comes your way over the skies of the fatherland here. So definitely the 162 is again sort of top tier, but within some of the confines of things like points and if you're obviously playing late war, so wouldn't be fair to really unleash this onto if you're not playing with like the time periods or anything like that, and you wanted to do like a what's if, like how many early warplanes could this thing chew through. So it could be a fun sort of what if scenario. But key thing to remember, you're not a prop plane anymore here, so if you find yourself in a bad spot, again, you have superlative speed, so just use your dive for basically that advantage, stuff like that, and just get yourself out of there, reset, and come back where combat's basically favorable and more on your terms. So you can get out there and show everybody your superior German technology with the ME-262. And again, there's also an ace for that, Walter Novotny. And one thing that's, again, really cool just in general with what Warlord does for these, so all the aces have like a little bit of historical background on them, and just interesting learning about some of these people that you maybe have not heard of before. So, but Walter, again, so if you already want sort of an elite plane with the 262 and then basically adding an ace on it as well. So again, if you've got the skills and the points to spare, and can incorporate the 262 and then Novotny's skills there, definitely a good pickup. So definitely would give him a look as well. So that basically covers the single engine planes. We move on, and Germany's really spoiled for in the heavy fighter department / kind of bombers, or just attack planes. So we have the 110, the BF-110, the ME-410, coming soon, probably by the time you're watching this video, the Ju-88 will be out, and then there's also the Ju-87 or the Stuka. So, and again, putting these in kind of an order, so we have the 110, just because it's kind of good at various stages of the war, but overall just a solid twin-engine fighter. And the reason I'm listing these separately too is, the twin-engine planes come with some extra rules, so it's just going to be more of like an advanced plane to kind of wrap your head around. Personally, would just recommend getting good with the regular sort of one-engine planes before you really jump into the two-engine fighters. Just again, there's more things to consider there. They can be in some ways more forgiving, but also just in general slower and less maneuverable than their single-engine counterparts. So just keep that in mind. But overall, the 110, it's a great twin-engine fighter, but how's the mobility? Well, not so good. Average speed, but firepower is where it's really going to show off for you. So it's really solid things there. And it's got all kinds of what we call bratwurst launchers out the front there. So just tons of cannons, and there's other variants and things too, which again, hopefully all of them at some point can make their way into the game. There's some really late war versions that had things like 37 mil and I think even like a 50 mil or something like that. sort of tank busting role for it, but those would be cool to see in the games in some way. So key thing with the 110 too is there is a rear gunner. So Fritz, the rear gunner, can also occasionally make some things happen if someone's getting too close to you on your 6. So they can maybe sometimes make them regret their life choices there, but don't count on that always being the case. But you are a big plane, you're a big target, and you're fairly slow. So you can certainly take some punishment, but again, that lower speed and maneuverability can certainly get you into some bad spots, especially if you're being chased by a horde of Spitfires or cheap things like Yaks and stuff like that. And at some point, the dice are just going to go against you here. But overall, just a fun attacking plane that is a good start for the sort of the twin engine or heavy fighter role for the Germans. And fairly easy to incorporate too with things like the 109s and even 190s. Had success with sort of incorporating both of them there, and you do even get an ace with that. So there is Bombo Schenk, who it just brings a lot of neat rules for the 110. So if you're not running anything else but even just him, again, he can do very well by himself and isn't terribly expensive. But being an ace, a named ace, he's still up there. So, but you can get out there and be a sort of a Jägermeister with the 110, if you were running like multiples of these, you could certainly dish out a lot of punishment, but you're going to have to really mitigate opponents getting around behind you, taking your advantage away. And also just shooting you from behind, where really, again, you've got that rear gunner, but I wouldn't count on their contribution to keep you safe all the time. So, but that being said, if you can maneuver around, line up targets, and blast away, you're going to do just fine. And really, depending on cloud cover, if you're in a bad spot, get yourself into the clouds, reset, and sort of re-engage on your own terms. Moving on, the ME-410 is another great one. It's a later war twin-engine fighter. Basically just does everything the 110 does, just better in general across the board. So really good firepower, basically about the same in maneuverability, but is overall just a little bit faster. So a lot of the same things apply there. So a little bit lesser known than the 110. Just because the 110 had so many versions throughout the war. But again, also an ace available there. If you pick up, what's his name, Edward Tratt. So it gives you some additional skills there. But again, just the twin-engine fighter line for the Germans, so heavy attack firepower. And not so much in the maneuverability or speed areas, although again the 410 is going to be just overall better on everything than the 110. But again, a lot of this is on paper, so it's really how do you make use of it in game, because it's certainly going to be a little bit more on the points side. But again, another fun one to collect if you're sticking more again with sort of late war time period. You have another great option there to complement some things like more late war, like let's say 190s with 410s, for example. Things like that, it could certainly excel in, but again, you've got points to keep in mind there. And then moving on, newer plane that's coming out is the Ju-88, and there, again, just a very heavy fighter, and just kind of the same thing. Another flavor of heavy firepower, not much in the way of speed overall or maneuverability. But again, you have options for sort of defending yourself with a rear gunner, I believe, and just another fun one to collect. Just different things that you can throw at the opponent. So Germany is the Luftwaffe is just really good at just throwing so many different things or potential things that an opponent has to face too. So again, you got a great range of single-engine fighters that can do all kinds of different things. You're spoiled for twin-engine heavy fighters as well if you really want to bring some of that pain. And again, with the twin-engine rules and all that, if you're playing smart and trying to keep yourself out of really bad situations, it's going to take a little bit of work for enemies to down you. So you can certainly draw more attention to you, which can then hopefully take some of the heat off of your single engine fighters and let them do their thing, so that they can come and help you too. So, but interesting to see where the Ju-88 will go, and they have an ace coming out for that too, Walter Borchers. So again, just adding some more of those elite skills there. And then finally, coming in, it's not really part of the sort of twin engine planes or heavy fighters or anything like that, but is the Stuka, which again is kind of in an interesting spot here. So dogfighting wise, it's not going to do great. It didn't really have the skills, or not skills, but the wasn't really designed to do that. And speed is also lacking, as is overall mobility. So, but ground attack work, which is what it was designed to do, can be really great. And again, if you're playing with some of the missions that allow for that, that can be really great. As you have like other planes trying to escort them towards dealing with that. Now, in a pinch, you could certainly use it against other slow things that maybe don't have access to like multiple turrets or rear turrets or anything like that, where you can come in and do some work. But again, getting in a turning match against other nimble things, these are just going to get eaten up. So even overall weaker things like individually, like a Yak 9, like early war Yak 9, individually, again, not all that scary, but they're going to be generally faster, more maneuverable in quantity, so they can get behind you, and then it's bad. It's just a bad day all around. So, a couple other things to look at when you're thinking about Luftwaffe. Certainly the expansion pack at some point. I wouldn't necessarily make that like a first or initial purchase, but once you've had a little bit of experience, maybe collected 2 or 3 different planes, and you kind of figure out like this is kind of what you like doing with the Luftwaffe, really good to pick that up. Just gives you more variance and some other cards as well. So definitely a great little pickup there. It doesn't cost too much. And really the other sort of miscellaneous product is the anti-air battery. So again, for missions that take advantage of that, and with the expansion as well. So if you really want to like practice and play that sort of ground attack or defending against bombing run kind of missions and scenarios and stuff like that, then sure, it makes sense. But again, it's really an entirely optional thing. It's cool, I guess, just to have like the extra models to represent, or even if you're playing some sort of campaign with, again, bombing missions and stuff like that, certainly a great pickup. But yeah, overall, Germany is really, again, very well represented at pretty much all the different types of planes. And again, you're spoiled with aces, and there's still several like big name aces that don't have a kit yet. So hopefully Warlord will get on those. But in general, like I said, it's really good to start off with the 109, and from there, look at what you like so far about the Germans. So, if you like the 109, you might try the other variants. And then if you want to move more into late war things, certainly looking at the 190 is going to be really like some of the best late war action you can get, and will help stand up against things like Mustangs and other just crazy late war planes that will be on the opposite side of the table from you. Of course, if you want to go sort of far late war and bring in that new technology, the 262 can be good, but again, very expensive for what it can do. So overall, single engine fighters, really mastering the 109 and the 190 is really where it's going to be at for you. And again, you're spoiled for aces there. Between the two planes, there's 4 different aces right now, 3 of them for the 190s. So if you can get really good with both of those planes, you can take on whatever the Allies are going to throw at you. It's not going to be you don't have to be that scared of what the Allies can do for you. But again, you're also spoiled on the heavy fighter side, so the 110 is certainly a great just all-rounder. It's stat-wise, it's not going to amaze you with maneuverability and speed, but it's got the firepower to certainly make enemies think twice about letting you line up shots with them. So, and again, the aces all add different wrinkles to this. So again, it's generally good to just pick up the core box for something, see if you like the plane first, and then once you've kind of gotten some games under your belt with it, then it's usually worth picking up the ace as well at some point. But again, it's not required. Warlord does not require you to do that, so overall a good deal there. But again, if you're focusing more on late war, the 410 is certainly good as well. and just does everything the 110 does, but just overall a little bit better. But again, with better stats and stuff come a more increased point cost. So you'll have fewer overall, depending on what pilot skill level you go with. The Ju-88, haven't seen it in person yet, but just from seeing some of the stats and stuff like that, again, just another heavy brawler, basically. But again, none of these are really going to outmaneuver or out dogfight anybody. So it's really going to come down to your skill and keeping them off of your 6, basically, while you try to line up your shots. That being said, all 3 of those have really great firepower. So even if you're just running like an average pilot skill 3, you're going to be throwing a decent amount of dice, and hopefully, hopefully things come up 6s for you, so you can start dropping enemies there. And then the Ju-88 again is going to be a little bit more limited. So really, again, overall, I feel like if you're playing the ground attack missions and stuff like that, certainly it'll do well there. But if you're taking this thing out and expecting to like do well dogfighting with it, unless your opponent's just sort of a noob, you're going to be sorely disappointed with what the Ju-87 will do in a dogfighting role. So, but Germany, overall fun faction. Again, some of the plans may be a little bit difficult to master, but overall, just once you can get there and get your skills up with the different planes and sort of figuring out how to incorporate them best. There's no necessarily one set way, but making use of what Germany does better than everybody else. So again, you're not necessarily going to outturn or outspeed anybody or everybody, or necessarily even outshoot everybody, but excuse me, just taking advantage of the overall quality across the board of German planes, and then some of the really elite aces of their skills and what they can do overall for a list. You are spoiled. That's really where Germany excels. Just there's really nothing bad in the German list or available German models whatsoever. So it's just getting practice, figuring out what you want to do. And like I said, you're not obligated to pick up the aces, and I would always just maybe hold off until you've gotten some reps in with the actual regular version of the planes, and then you can pick up the aces. But again, if you have your heart set on a specific plane, or you actually like a specific ace or something like that, or by all means pick up what you want when you want, or collect how you want. But if you really don't know too much about the planes or the aces and what they did historically, or within the confines of the game, take it slow, figure out how each plane really works, and what it's going to be good at, and how that what you need to learn really to be good with it before dumping money into the aces and stuff like that. But hope you guys enjoyed our little tour here through the Luftwaffe. I'm sure there's more coming along the way from Warlord at some point as well. And as I was saying earlier, just real quick again, so once you've gotten the hang of maybe 2 or 3 different planes, and then I would really think about getting that Luftwaffe expansion pack, just to add other variants and cards and stuff like that, so that can expand your options further without necessarily having to buy more planes. But if you really like the Luftwaffe, like me here, so you probably will at some point collect everything for it. But really, overall, I'd start with like the 109, 190, and probably even like the 110 is just a good solid range of good fighters and firepower and everything at different periods of the war. So, but again, I hope you guys enjoyed our little look here at Luftwaffe for Blood Red Skies. Stay tuned. We're going to do one of these basically for each faction. We'll probably do America next, U.S. Air Force, and then we'll probably switch to the either the RAF or the Soviets. We're still not sure yet. But if you could, drop us a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one.